Welcome to Mother's Revenge, where heartfelt stories touch your soul and may even bring you to tears. 3 weeks after my cousin died in a car crash, an insurance investigator tracked me down to a Target parking lot where I had been sleeping in my car. He knocked on my window at 7:00 in the morning while I was still wrapped in a blanket that smelled like fast food and regret. I thought he was security coming to tell me to move along. I thought my day was about to get worse. Instead, he told me Ethan Carter had left me $50 million. I remember laughing not because it was funny, but because my brain could not process what he was saying. I was 50 years old, living out of a Honda Accord with a check engine light that had been on for 3 months. I had $15 in my checking account. I had eaten a gas station hot dog for dinner the night before and called it a good day because at least it was warm. And this man in a pressed gray suit was telling me I just inherited a fortune. But then his expression changed. He looked at me the way a doctor looks at you right before delivering bad news. He said there was something else. Something about the accident report. Something about the brake lines on Ethan Carter's Mercedes. What he told me next made my blood turn cold, because I realized the crash that killed my cousin was not an accident. Someone had murdered him, and I was about to find out that the people I trusted most in this world were capable of things I never imagined. My name is James Mitchell. I grew up in Cedarville, Ohio, a town so small that everybody knows your business whether you want them to or not. I spent 24 years working as an HVAC technician, crawling through attics in 100-degree heat and basements flooded with sewage. I fixed furnaces on Christmas Eve. I repaired air conditioners for elderly widows who could not afford to pay full price. So I charged them half and told them it was a senior discount I had just made up. I was not rich. I was not important. But I was honest and I worked hard, and I thought that counted for something. I was married for 23 years to a woman named Linda. She was my high school sweetheart, the girl I took to prom in a borrowed suit because I could not afford to rent one. She was beautiful in a way that made me nervous every single day of our marriage, like I had won a prize I did not deserve, and someone was eventually going to take it back. We had a daughter together, Emily. She is 25 years old now, works as a nurse in Dayton, Ohio. She has her mother's eyes and my stubbornness, which means she never gives up on anyone, even when she probably should, even when that person is her broken-down father living in a parking lot. I had a brother named Brian, 5 years younger than me, living out in Nevada. We had not spoken in almost 3 years because of a stupid argument about money that both of us were too proud to apologize for. I would think about calling him sometimes late at night when the loneliness got bad, but I never did. Pride is a funny thing. It keeps you warm when you have nothing else, but it also keeps you alone. And then there was Ethan Carter, my cousin, 4 years older than me, son of my father's brother. When we were kids, Ethan was my hero. He taught me how to ride a bike, how to throw a fastball, how to talk to girls without stumbling over my words. We spent summers at our grandfather's farm, fishing in the pond behind the barn, catching fireflies in mason jars, staying up past midnight telling ghost stories. But somewhere along the way, Ethan changed. Or maybe he was always that way, and I was just too young to see it. He inherited his father's real estate business when he was 28, and money did something to him. It made him hungry in a way that was never satisfied. He started looking at people like they were pieces on a board game, something to be moved and used and discarded when they no longer served a purpose. He married twice, divorced twice, and never seemed bothered by either. He drove cars that cost more than my house. He wore watches that cost more than my truck, and every time he showed up at a family gathering, he looked at my life like it was something to be pitied. I should have seen what was coming. I should have noticed the way Linda lit up when Ethan walked into a room. I should have paid attention when she started criticizing everything about me, my clothes, my truck, the way I smelled after a long day at work. I should have asked why she was suddenly so interested in his visits. But I trusted her. After 23 years, you do not question the foundation. You assume it is solid because it has been standing so long. I was wrong. 6 months before that insurance investigator found me in that parking lot, my entire life collapsed. I lost my wife, I lost my house, I lost my savings, I lost my dignity. And the man responsible for taking everything from me was the same cousin who used to be my best friend. Now he was dead, and somehow, impossibly, he had left me everything. But the money was not the real story. The real story was what happened to Ethan on that rain-slicked highway outside Cincinnati, Ohio. The real story was who wanted him dead and why. The real story was a betrayal so deep that even now, sitting here telling you about it, I still have trouble believing it happened. This is the story of how I lost everything, inherited a fortune, and discovered that the woman I loved for more than 2 decades was capable of murder. This is my story, and I need you to hear all of it. For 24 years, I woke up at 5 in the morning. Every single day except Sundays, I would make coffee in the dark, pack my lunch in a cooler, and drive to whatever job was waiting for me. Furnace repairs in January when the temperature dropped below 0. Air conditioner installations in August when the heat was so bad you could fry an egg on the pavement. I crawled through spaces most people did not know existed in their own homes. I came home covered in dust and insulation and sweat, and I never once complained about it. I was proud of what I did. Not everyone can say that about their work. I kept people warm in the winter and cool in the summer. I fixed problems. I made things work again. There is dignity in that kind of labor, even if nobody writes songs about it. Linda and I bought our house when we were 26 years old. A little 3-bedroom place on Maple Drive with a backyard big enough for a garden and a garage where I kept my tools organized on pegboard walls. I made the down payment with money I had saved since I was 16. Every dollar I earned from mowing lawns, working at the hardware store, and eventually starting my HVAC career went into that fund. When we signed the papers, I remember thinking, this was it. This was the American dream. A house, a wife, a future. We had Emily. A year later, I was in the delivery room holding Linda's hand, crying like a baby myself when they put that little girl in my arms. She was so small, so perfect. I promised her right then that I would give her everything I never had. Stability, security, a father who showed up. And I kept that promise. For 25 years, I kept that promise. The early years of our marriage were good, really good. Linda worked part-time at a dental office while Emily was young, then went full-time once Emily started school. We were not wealthy, but we were comfortable. We took vacations to Destin, Florida every summer. We had barbecues with the neighbors. We sat on the porch swing in the evenings and talked about nothing important, which, looking back, might have been the most important thing of all. But something shifted around the time Emily left for college. The house got quiet, and in that silence, I think Linda started listening to thoughts she had been ignoring for years. She started spending more time on her phone, scrolling through pictures of people living lives that looked nothing like ours. Beaches in the Caribbean, designer kitchens, women her age wearing expensive clothes and drinking wine on boats. She would show me these pictures sometimes, and there was something in her voice I did not recognize. A bitterness, a longing. "Look at Jennifer's new house," she would say. "Her husband just got promoted again." I did not know what to say to that. I was not going to get promoted. I owned my own small operation, just me and one helper. During the busy season, there was no corporate ladder to climb. There was just the work. Day after day, year after year, I started working longer hours, thinking maybe if I brought in more money, she would be happier. But the more I worked, the more she complained that I was never home. I could not win. I was either not successful enough or not present enough, and sometimes both in the same conversation. That is when Ethan Carter started coming around more often. He would show up unannounced on Saturday afternoons, always with a bottle of expensive wine, or some gift he had picked up on his latest trip. A silk scarf from Italy, a handbag from some designer I had never heard of. He would hand these things to Linda, like they were nothing, like dropping $300 on a gift for his cousin's wife was just something people did. I noticed the way she looked at him, the way she laughed at his jokes, even the ones that were not funny, the way she would touch his arm when they talked, leaning in close like he was sharing secrets meant only for her. "Ethan is just being generous," she would say when I brought it up. "He is family. Do not be paranoid." So I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that 23 years of marriage meant something. I told myself that Linda would never betray me, especially not with my own cousin. I was a fool. The signs were everywhere. The new clothes she bought that she never wore around me. The way she started going to the gym every day after years of saying she hated exercise. The phone calls she would take in another room, lowering her voice when I walked by. I see it all so clearly now. But back then, I could not afford to see it, because seeing it would mean my whole life was a lie, and I was not ready for that truth. Nobody ever is. I kept my head down and kept working. I told myself things would get better. I told myself every marriage had rough patches. I had no idea I was about to lose everything. The day my life ended started like any other. I woke up at 5, made my coffee, and headed out to a service call in Springfield, Ohio. An older couple had a heat pump that was making a grinding noise. Simple job. I figured I would be there a couple hours, maybe 3, but when I got there, the unit was still under warranty. The problem was a manufacturer defect, not something I could bill for. I called the home office, arranged for a replacement part to be shipped, and told the couple I would be back in a few days to install it. They offered me coffee and banana bread, and I sat with them for 20 minutes talking about their grandchildren before I left. I was home by 11:00 in the morning. I never came home that early. I usually did not walk through the front door until 6:00 or 7 at night, sometimes later during the busy season. Linda would not be expecting me for hours. I noticed Ethan's Mercedes in the driveway before I even turned off my truck. My stomach tightened, but I told myself there was an explanation. Maybe he was dropping something off. Maybe he needed to talk about family business. Our aunt had been sick. There could be 100 reasons he was there. I walked through the front door and heard voices upstairs. Laughter. The kind of laughter that made my skin prickle. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. The bedroom door was closed. I stood outside it for what felt like an hour, but was probably only a few seconds. Part of me wanted to turn around and leave. Part of me wanted to pretend I had not heard anything, get back in my truck and drive until I ran out of gas. But I could not. I had to know. I pushed the door open. Linda screamed. Ethan scrambled off the bed, grabbing for his shirt. The sheets were tangled. The room smelled like cologne that was not mine. I stood there, frozen, my hand still on the doorknob, staring at my wife and my cousin like they were strangers. Like I had walked into the wrong house, the wrong life, the wrong universe where something like this could actually happen. James, Linda said, pulling the blanket up to cover herself. "This is not what it looks like." I almost laughed. It was such a ridiculous thing to say, such a cliché, but nothing came out of my mouth. I could not speak. I could not move. I just stood there watching Ethan button his shirt like he had all the time in the world. He did not apologize. He did not even look embarrassed. He just smirked at me. This little half smile that said he had won something I did not even know we were competing for. "You should go, James," he said. "Let us get dressed." Let us get dressed. Like I was the one intruding. Like this was their bedroom and I was the stranger. Something broke inside me, not my heart. Something deeper. Something that had been holding me together for 50 years. How long? My voice came out rough, like I had not used it in years. Linda would not look at me. "James, please let us talk about this later." How long? She finally met my eyes, and what I saw there was not guilt. It was not shame. It was annoyance, like I was inconveniencing her. 8 months, she said. Maybe longer. I do not know. Does it matter? 8 months? For 8 months I had been coming home to this woman, sleeping beside her, telling her about my day, asking about hers. For 8 months she had been lying to my face while spending her afternoons in our bed with my cousin. Why, I asked, and I hated how pathetic I sounded. Linda stood up, wrapping a robe around herself. She looked at me the way you look at something stuck to the bottom of your shoe. Because I am tired, James. I am tired of this life. I am tired of watching you come home smelling like other people's basement. I am tired of clipping coupons and driving a 10-year-old car while everyone else I know is actually living. Ethan makes me feel alive. He is successful. He is exciting. She paused, and her next words hit me like a physical blow. He is a real man. Ethan laughed behind her. Actually laughed. I turned and walked out of the bedroom, down the stairs, out the front door. I got in my truck and drove to a parking lot behind the grocery store and sat there for 3 hours, staring at nothing. Linda filed for divorce 2 days later. She had a lawyer before I even understood what was happening. Ethan paid for everything. The house went to her because I could not afford to fight it. The savings account, everything we had built over 2 decades, was joined. She emptied it before the ink was dry on the filing. I walked away with my truck, my tools, and the clothes I could fit in a duffel bag. At 50 years old, after a lifetime of working and providing and doing everything right, I had nothing. I tried staying with my brother Brian in Nevada. He was the only family I had left who might take me in. And even that was a long shot. We had not spoken in almost 3 years, not since he asked me for a loan during his own divorce, and I told him I could not afford it. The truth was, I probably could have scraped together the money, but Linda had convinced me it was a bad idea. She said Brian would never pay it back. She said we needed to think about our own future. Funny how that turned out. I swallowed my pride and called him from a rest stop outside St. Louis. I told him everything, the affair, the divorce, the fact that I was basically homeless. He was quiet for a long time, and I thought he was going to hang up on me. But finally he sighed and said I could come stay for a while. I drove 18 hours straight to get there. When I pulled into his driveway, I felt something I had not felt in weeks. Hope. Maybe things could still work out. Maybe I could start over in Nevada, find work, rebuild my life. That hope lasted exactly 3 days. Brian's wife, Karen, made it clear from the moment I walked in that I was not welcome. She did not say it directly, but I felt it in every interaction. The way she would sigh when I came into the kitchen, the way she whispered to Brian when they thought I could not hear, the way she counted the groceries like she was keeping a tab. On the 3rd night, Brian sat down across from me at the kitchen table. He looked tired, defeated, like he had already lost an argument. He had not started yet. "James, I am sorry," he said. "Karen thinks it is best if you find somewhere else to stay." I nodded. I did not have the energy to argue. I did not have the energy for anything. "I understand," I said. And I did. Brian had his own life, his own problems. He did not need his broken older brother sleeping on his couch and reminding him of everything that could go wrong. I left the next morning before anyone else woke up. I did not say goodbye. I just got in my truck and started driving east, back toward Ohio. Even though there was nothing waiting for me there, I ended up in a Target parking lot outside Cincinnati, Ohio. I had heard somewhere that Target let people sleep in their cars overnight, and I was too exhausted to find anywhere else. I pulled into a spot at the far end of the lot, away from the lights, and tried to sleep. That first night was the hardest. Not because of the physical discomfort, though that was bad enough. It was the silence, the loneliness, the realization that I had fallen so far so fast, and nobody was coming to help me. I developed a routine over the following weeks. I would wake up early and drive to a truck stop to shower. I would spend a few dollars on coffee and a breakfast sandwich. I would look for day labor jobs, anything that would put cash in my pocket. Some days I found work. Most days I did not. I called Emily once a week. I tried to sound upbeat, like everything was fine, like I was just figuring things out. She saw right through it. "Dad, please come to Ohio," she would say. "You can stay with me. I have room." But I could not do that to her. She was just starting her career, just building her own life. She did not need her father showing up with nothing but a duffel bag and a decade of failure weighing him down. I told her I was fine. I told her I had a plan. I told her I would be back on my feet in no time. I was lying, and we both knew it. Months passed. I lost track of exactly how many. The days blurred together into a gray haze of parking lots and gas station food and nights spent staring at the ceiling of my car, wondering where everything went wrong. Then, one morning in late October, my phone rang. It was my aunt, my father's sister. Her voice was shaking. "James, I have news. It is Ethan. He is dead." I did not react at first. The words did not make sense. What happened? Car accident last night out on Highway 31. Lost control in the rain. They said he died instantly. I sat in my car and listened to my aunt cry. I made the appropriate sounds, said the appropriate things, but inside, I felt nothing. No grief, no satisfaction, just emptiness. Ethan was dead. The man who destroyed my life was gone. I should have felt something, but I was too broken to feel anything at all. I had no idea that his death was about to change everything, and I had no idea that the truth behind it would be worse than anything I could have imagined. 3 weeks after Ethan's funeral, I was sitting in my car eating a granola bar for breakfast when someone knocked on my window. I jumped so hard I nearly choked. Standing outside was a man in his late 50s gray suit, silver hair, combed back neat, holding a leather briefcase like he had just stepped out of a law firm commercial. I rolled down the window, expecting him to tell me to leave. Instead, he handed me a business card. "James Mitchell. My name is Richard Palmer. I am an investigator with Continental Life Insurance. I need to speak with you about your cousin Ethan's policy." I stared at the card. "I do not know anything about Ethan's insurance. That is why I am here." He gestured toward the passenger seat. "May I?" I unlocked the door and he climbed in. Like sitting in a beat-up Honda in a Target parking lot was the most natural thing in the world. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder thick with documents. "Your cousin held a life insurance policy with our company," Richard said. $50 million. You are listed as the sole beneficiary." I laughed. I could not help it. "That is impossible. Ethan hated me. He stole my wife. He took everything I had." Richard nodded slowly. "The policy was taken out 19 years ago, back when you two were apparently on better terms. He never updated the beneficiary. Happens more often than you would think. People forget, or they just never get around to it. $50 million. I could not even comprehend that number. I had spent the last 6 months counting quarters to buy coffee. "There must be a mistake," I said. "There is no mistake, Mr. Mitchell." Richard paused and his expression changed. The professional detachment faded, replaced by something harder. "But there is a problem." He pulled out a photograph from the folder and handed it to me. It showed the underside of a car, a tangle of metal and tubes. "This is the brake line from your cousin's Mercedes. See this section here?" He pointed to a spot where the line looked clean, too clean. "That is not wear and tear. That is not corrosion. That line was cut deliberately." My mouth went dry. "You are saying someone tampered with his car. I am saying someone wanted your cousin dead and wanted it to look like an accident." Richard took the photograph back and slid it into the folder. "Before I can authorize a payout of this size, I need to understand exactly what happened. And right now, Mr. Mitchell, You are the only person connected to this case who has nothing to gain from Ethan's death looking accidental." "What do you mean?" Richard leaned back in the seat. "Your cousin's estate is a mess. He was leveraged to the hilt on 3 commercial properties. He owed money to contractors' lawyers and at least 2 private lenders with questionable reputations. His will was recently changed. Everything goes to Linda, the woman he was planning to marry. Linda, of course. But here is what is interesting," Richard continued. "The will was changed 7 weeks before the accident. The insurance policy was not. If Ethan had updated his beneficiary to Linda, she would be getting $50 million right now. Instead, it is you." Something cold settled in my stomach. "You think Linda did this?" "I think Linda had motive. I think she had access to Ethan's car, and I think she assumed she was the beneficiary on that policy." Richard looked at me with sharp eyes. "I need to find out what really happened, and I could use your help." I did not hesitate. "What do you need me to do?" "Over the next 2 weeks." Richard and I dug into Ethan's final months. We tracked down the mechanic who serviced his car 2 days before the crash. His name was Tommy Hayes, a nervous man in his 40s who ran a small garage outside the city. When Richard showed him the photographs of the brake line, Tommy's face went white. "I want immunity," he said immediately. "I want it in writing before I say anything." Richard made a call. An hour later, Tommy was talking. A woman had approached him 3 days before Ethan brought the car in for an oil change. She paid him $10,000 in cash to make sure the brakes failed gradually, not all at once. She wanted it to happen on the highway. She wanted it to look like an accident. "What did she look like?" Richard asked. Tommy described her perfectly. Blonde hair, late 40s, well-dressed, drove a white Lexus SUV. Linda, it was Linda. She murdered Ethan. She killed the man she left me for because he was about to leave her with nothing, and the whole time she thought she was going to collect $50 million. But Ethan never changed the policy. Whether he forgot, or whether some part of him still remembered what we used to mean to each other, I will never know. But that one oversight meant Linda's plan had failed. She had committed murder for nothing. I looked at Richard. "What happens now?" "Now," he said, "we call the police." I drove to the riverfront house in Lakeview, Ohio, that same afternoon, the place Ethan and Linda had been building their new life together. It was beautiful. I will give them that. 3 stories, floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the water, a boat dock with a speedboat tied to it. Everything I could never give her. Linda answered the door in yoga pants and a cashmere sweater. She looked good, rested like a woman who had just gotten away with murder and was settling into her new fortune. Her face went pale when she saw me. "James, what are you doing here?" I stepped past her into the foyer. Marble floors, a chandelier that probably cost more than my truck. I turned to face her. "I know what you did, Linda. I know about the mechanic. I know about the $10,000. I know you cut Ethan's brake lines." She tried to laugh it off, but the sound came out wrong. "Strangled. You have lost your mind. Living in that car has made you crazy. Richard Palmer has Tommy Hayes' full statement. He is handing it to the police right now. It is over." I watched the color drain from her face. I watched the mask slip, and underneath it I saw something I had never seen before in 23 years of marriage. I saw who she really was. Ethan was going to leave me. Her voice cracked. He found out about the credit cards. I ran up almost $250,000 in debt, and he was furious. He said I was just like his ex-wives. He said he was done with me. "So you killed him." I gave him everything. She was crying now, but I felt nothing. "I left you for him. I destroyed my family for him. I was not going to walk away with nothing. I deserved that money. I earned it. You earned it by murdering him." She did not answer. She just stood there, tears streaming down her face. and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The insurance policy. I said, "You thought you were the beneficiary. You thought you would get $50 million. Her head snapped up. "What do you mean, thought Ethan never changed it? The beneficiary is still me, Linda. It has been me for 19 years. You killed him for nothing. I have never seen someone's world collapse so completely in a single moment." Her knees buckled. She grabbed the wall to keep from falling. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The police arrived 20 minutes later. I stood on the front porch and watched them put handcuffs on the woman I had loved for more than half my life. She did not look at me, not once. They put her in the back of the squad car and I watched them drive away. I thought I would feel satisfied, vindicated something, but I just felt empty. Tired, ready for all of it to be over. The insurance payout came through 7 weeks later, $50 million deposited into an account with my name on it. I sat in the bank manager's office staring at the number on the screen, and it did not feel real. None of it felt real. The first thing I did was call Brian. We talked for 4 hours. I apologized for not helping him during his divorce. He apologized for kicking me out when I needed him most. We both cried. We both laughed. And when I hung up the phone, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Connection. I bought Brian and Karen a house, paid it off completely. No mortgage, no strings attached. Brian tried to refuse, but I would not let him. I told him that is what brothers do. I moved to Ohio to be closer to Emily. I bought a modest place, 3 bedrooms, a nice yard, nothing fancy. I did not need a mansion. I had learned what really mattered, and it had nothing to do with square footage or lakefront views. I set up a trust fund for Emily's future children, my future grandchildren. I donated $10 million to a veterans housing organization. I created scholarships for young people who wanted to learn a trade but could not afford the training. HVAC plumbing, electrical work, the kind of jobs that built my life before it fell apart. One evening, Emily and I were sitting on my back porch watching the sun go down. She asked me what I had learned from everything that happened. I thought about it for a long time before I answered. I learned that some people spend their whole lives taking from others. Ethan did. Your mother did. They thought happiness was something you could steal from someone else. But taking does not build anything. It just leaves you empty. Emily leaned her head on my shoulder. I lost everything, I continued. My wife, my house, my savings, my dignity. I spent 6 months sleeping in a parking lot wondering if my life was over. And you know what? I realized. The only things that really mattered were the things money could not buy. My integrity. My daughter. My peace of mind. I looked out at the sunset, the sky painted in shades of orange and pink. Ethan never changed that insurance policy. Maybe he forgot. Or maybe deep down he remembered who we used to be. 2 kids racing bikes at our grandfather's farm catching fireflies in mason jars. Back before the money, before the competition, before everything got so broken. I put my arm around my daughter and held her close. I am 50 years old. I have got more money than I will ever need. But the richest I have ever felt was the day I forgave everyone who hurt me, including myself. Linda is serving 27 years to life for first-degree murder. Tommy Hayes got 6 years for his part in it. The riverfront house in Lakeview, Ohio was seized and sold. I do not know what happened to the boat. I do not think about her much anymore. I try not to. Some wounds heal cleaner if you do not keep picking at them. What I think about instead is the future. The grandchildren I hope to meet someday. The people I can help with the money I never expected to have. The second chance I got when I thought my life was over. If you are going through something hard right now, if you feel like everything is falling apart and there is no way forward, I want you to know something. Rock bottom is not the end. Sometimes it is just the foundation for something new. Thank you for listening to my story. If it meant something to you, I would appreciate it if you shared this video with someone who might need to hear it. Leave a comment below and tell me what you think. And if you have not already subscribed to this channel and hit that notification bell so you do not miss the next story, because everyone has a story and sometimes the worst chapter leads to the best ending. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other.